The sound was not a thud. It was sharper bone giving way under deliberate force. Her scream cut through the hallway, high and startled, quickly choked by sobs. By the time I reached her, my daughter Sarah was on the floor, both legs bent in ways they are not meant to bend. My father-in-law, David, stood over her, one hand still gripping a cane he did not need, the other holding his whiskey glass like a trophy. "Now they match your worthless life," he said. Behind him, my wife, Emily, leaned in the doorway, arms folded, a smile pulling at the corner of her mouth. "Crawling looks better on her," she added, her eyes meeting mine as if daring me to speak. Sarah's tears streaked her cheeks, but she tried to smile through it, tried even then to be strong for me. That was the moment I knew they would never laugh again. We took her to the hospital. I didn't argue with the lies. Emily told the nurse something about a fall down the stairs. I knew that if I contradicted her now, they would twist it until I became the villain. It had been this way for years. David's contempt was obvious, but Emily's cruelty was quieter, a death by 1,000 cuts. Still, until that night, I had believed. The line between cruelty and physical harm was one they would not cross. I was wrong. The worst part was not the act itself, but the way they looked at each other afterward, as if they had done something clever. I stayed quiet. On the outside, I was the devoted husband and the calm father. Inside, I was mapping every move. While Sarah recovered, I began collecting things. Small things at first. Security camera footage from a neighbor's porch, showing David walking into our house that night without the cane he'd used as a weapon minutes later. Phone recordings of Emily's late-night calls to him, discussing money transfers from her personal account to his, old medical bills from other accidents they'd brushed off in the past. I kept everything hidden, not in my office or on my computer, but in a location neither of them would ever think to look. When Emily left her phone unattended one night, I scrolled through her messages and found photos and videos, little moments they had recorded, laughing at Sarah's struggles, her limp after a slip on the ice last year, her quiet tears over a ruined drawing. My hand shook, but not from anger, from certainty. This was not spontaneous cruelty. It was a pattern, and patterns could be proven. The day the evidence was complete, I almost felt calm. It was all there. Dates, times, images, and audio. I started with David. I visited his office unannounced, and handed him a plain envelope. He slid the photos out, stopping halfway through the stack. The color drained from his face. "You've been busy," he said, forcing a chuckle. I didn't answer. I let the silence press against him until his eyes flicked up to mine, searching for some sign of what I would do next. Then I left without a word. That night I placed the same envelope in front of Emily at the dinner table. When she finally touched it, the smile she had been wearing all day slipped like wet paper peeling from glass. Her fork clinked against the plate. "You wouldn't," she started. I just stared. 2 weeks later, the police came. Not for me. Everything I had gathered was in their hands. Videos, financial records, witness statements from neighbors who had seen more than they'd admitted before. The charges weren't just assault. They were theft, fraud, and conspiracy to harm a minor. I stood in the driveway as they led them out. David shouted about family matters and private disputes. Emily didn't say a word. She glanced at me once, and in that glance was everything: shock, disbelief, and the dawning realization that I had been playing a longer game than she ever imagined. I didn't smile or gloat. That would have made it about emotion. This was a necessary correction. The house is quiet now. Too quiet, some might say. Sarah's legs will heal. The doctors say she'll dance again, but I've told her she doesn't need to. She doesn't have to prove anything to anyone, least of all to them. People ask why I didn't leave sooner, why I stayed long enough for it to get this bad. They don't understand. Leaving is running. Staying is gathering. Now they'll spend years locked away, replaying the moment they realized the trap had been set from the start. I don't think about them often. When I do, I picture the last thing they saw of me, standing in the cold, hands in my pockets, watching as they were taken away. And I know with absolute clarity that they will never laugh again.